webinar, you are encouraged to ask questions via the WebEx Q&A from your WebEx panel. Questions may also be answered by the presenter or in written format by our panelists in the chat to the right of your screen. There will also be time allocated at the end of the presentation for additional Q&A. Our expert presenter today is Stefan Schuch, Systems Engineer and part of the Software Professional Services team with Polarion. Stefan was awarded his title of Associate Engineer from the Siemens Technology Academy in Berlin, Germany, while receiving his Bachelor of Engineering. Stefan has vast experience with Telelogic Doors 8.1, while he managed the RM team at Nokia Siemens Networks. Stefan has also worked and consulted with MKS on their RFIF exchange add-on. Welcome, Stefan.
Thank you, Nancy, for the introduction. Also, welcome from my side to this webinar. Yeah, as you heard, with the topic Polarion for DOS users, Polarion and IBM DOS working together. Before we actually start with the session, we have two questions for you, because we know you are probably active DOS users, and we would like to know in advance which version of DOS you're using. And the second question is, what kind of development methodology are you using? More traditional waterfall, V-model, agile, or maybe a hybrid of these two? So I would just start the polling now. So please take a minute or so to enter your answers. What I see here from the current results is that nearly no one is using DOS Next at the moment. And this is not really surprising for me, as it is very difficult to migrate to DOS Next. And yeah, as you heard, this is also good for me, as most of my personal DOS experience is with DOS version 8. And for the other questions, what I see is that most of you select number one, so the classical waterfall or V-model development. Not so many people are working agile. Some have chosen number three. So as a result, I will not spend so much on agile today. I will focus on the traditional waterfall and V-model development. I encourage anyone who is interested in learning more about agile to attend one of our Polarion recorded webinars, which you can find on our webpage. So thank you all for now for the answers. Let's start with the demo, with the presentation. So what we will do at first is I will give you a quick introduction about Polarion software, so who we are. Then I will show you how the exchange of data between DOS and Polarion looks like, so what you get if you try it. And after that, we come to the main part, tell you something about working with DOS and how it works in comparison to Polarion. So what are the differences and what are the advantages of using Polarion together with DOS? So let's start with Polarion software. And yeah, here's the first important thing you should know about Polarion. So we are not as big as IBM, with around 90 employees around the world, not even close, but we have a significant customer base in all areas, especially industries forced to take care of many standards and regulations, like automotive, medical, or aerospace and defense, are choosing Polarion very often. We have a strong global presence, and more than 1 million users are working with Polarion solutions. Where I have to say that only around 20% are real commercial licenses, and the rest is based on our open source contribution for Eclipse and Subversion. We only have one commercial product for sale, and this is Polarion ALM. And this single solution contains not only requirements management, but also all other components which are part of an application lifecycle process. Quality assurance, change management, configuration management, also build management, but yeah, that's not even all, which is part of Polarion ALM or what can be handled using Polarion ALM. Here you can see some opinions of experts of the ALM market about Polarion, and if you have a quick look at the comments here from Gartner, from Ovum, and from the Software Quality Days, you will read that we create a quite good impression for them. Maybe also what is interesting for you is that we've won the tool challenge of the Software Quality Days twice in a row. Yeah, we are really proud about that. Okay, so one reason for the positive feedback you just saw is our open architecture. Polarion is a web-based tool, so no need to install any client except the web browser. If you need to extend the functionality of Polarion, it is even possible to use our detailed Java API or web services if you like. We are integrating to other tools, like, of course, for this webinar with IBM DOS, but also with Eclipse, Visual Studio, MS Office products. And yeah, of course, there are different other connectors if you need to integrate to your existing tool landscape. Let's go directly into the exchange of data between DOORS and Polarion. At first, what we see here is, of course, I guess you know what we see here, a simple DOORS module. And what I will show you now is how it looks like if we can exchange such a module to Polarion. Here again is a little screenshot of the original module, which we have migrated to Polarion before. So just the main introduction here, some chapters, some table inside here, and another screenshot here for the lower part of the DOORS module. So we have a picture inside here, and even an OLE object here embedded into the module. And if we now have a look into Polarion, then we will see that the module coming from DOORS was migrated to this module we just see here on the right side in our browser. So you see here we are already in Polarion. We converted this regif module, which we get, to a live doc in Polarion, and you see all the chapter structure in here. You see all the information which comes here from the top of the module. We see the single requirements marked here with an own icon. So every time you see here such an icon, then this is a requirement coming from DOORS. Basically what you see here is that you also have the possibility to move all your data, all your structure, all your content, also including the pictures here in the bottom into Polarion. So there's no worry of exchanging your data. Everything will be there as you need it to be. Even this OLE object here has been converted to an image, which is now embedded to the Polarion live doc. And this can be done easily with our regif connector in Polarion. So, having seen this, we can directly go on to the next part. And of course, something which all of you may know is working off DOORS has many advantages, of course. Like collaborating with partners is easy because nearly everyone uses it. Meta information for each requirement can be entered, so you can say, okay, what target release shall a requirement be for? You can enter a severity or different information which you can add to such a DOORS module or to each single requirement. You can create a linking between your requirements or between your modules. You have the ability to work together on one module, so everyone can lock his part of the module, change something while your colleagues are working on other parts of the document. And if you like, you can extend the functionality of your DOORS client by using DXL scripts. This is all fine and this is all good to work with, but collaboration with Polarion offers even more possibilities. And of course, that's the topic for today, that you see, okay, what's this integration all about? So what can you do with Polarion to even increase your work experience? So first thing is you can work in real documents, which are close to Microsoft Office and really intuitive to use. I mean, DOORS modules are more or less such a list of requirements and headings, and Polarion, you just have the possibility to also add some additional describing content. What you also can do is, like in DOORS, you can go directly into your document and modify, of course, the content of the requirement, but also the fields. Like I said here, the severity, you can directly see here in the lower part what are the links, the connections to other items we have in the system. You can continue the workflow of the item. For example, here we are in the approved state. Or you can also insert additional information like pictures, tables, diagrams, just without, for example, moving to a video and copying your chart which you're creating there, or your work or your flow diagram or whatever. You can just directly insert it into Polarion. But we'll see that in a moment. And the other important part here, you've seen that DOORS can be sourced for requirements at all kinds of specifications, but native support for Word and Excel is also a common demand to fetch documents, e.g. from customers or partners. And this is the first thing I would like to show you directly in the tool, because just so many specifications also come from Word, for example. And for that reason, I just go to my own installed server here, to my own local Polarion installation. And here you see the interface the first time. So you see also we are running at Firefox at the moment. As mentioned before, if you have a halfway current browser, then everything works for you, not just for the normal user, but also for the administration. You have your navigation menu on the left side for the most common topics. For example, if we want to import a specification, not from a regif file, for example, but from Word, we can just go to the specification area here in the tool, and here we directly find a fitting button to import an existing specification into the tool. So we can do that, and in advance I will show you how our specification looks like so that you get an impression of what we are actually importing. So here we have our specification, header, introduction, also here another heading, table of contents, some picture inside here. So yeah, basically a common Word document. What I would do now to save some time is I use a pre-configured configuration to save some time that I don't have to make the mapping again. And I just have to select the file which I want to import. And in the next step, Polarion is already working on mapping all the information found in the Word file to such a Polarion document. And here you see how easy or how quick this works. We already get the structure in here, we get all the content, and starting here in chapter 2 or 2.1, we get the first additional information. As before, with the document coming from DOS, we also have here this little icon for the requirement. We see this bar here at the left side too, which tells us what is actually part of the requirement. So this whole table here is part of the first requirement. Here we have some bullet points attached to the requirement. And here on the right side is the part which I imported from the chosen configuration at the beginning. So this rule here says that I mark everything in my document as a requirement if there's somewhere the words must or should. So every line containing must or should is now marked as a requirement, like here or like here. There are also some advanced options that I can say, okay, what shall be included to these requirements and what shall be done and what shall be done after the mapping itself. So I can also set fields directly based on information coming from the document. For example, here I set the field severity to the value must have all the time when there's must in the fitting line. So you can see here on the right side we also have a field, an additional field as metadata included into the document, which is just the field severity. And this configuration can be customized very easily. You can click the preview button here all the time to check if your mapping is correct. And if you're fine, you can just save your mapping configuration, select the name of the document you want to import, select the space, so just some kind of folder where you can put your documents into. And if you're fine, you can just hit the import button, and yes, this document is created in Polarion, and we are just in the tool, and now you see that every new item which is created here, every new requirement gets a new ID generated for this requirement, which is unique. Now that we are really in the new document, if we are really in Polarion, I can just open the work item properties here, the properties bar at the right side. So I can say, okay, for this requirement here, I select the sign here. I say, okay, John Doe shall work on this. I can say the severity for one of the requirements here. I can lower it, for example, from must have to should have, if I like. But what I also could do is I can say, okay, this requirement shall not be a requirement, but maybe is not detailed enough that I can say, okay, I want to unmark it. So now it moved from a real requirement to just some explaining text, maybe to give some more information about which is needed to understand the document. Or I can say, okay, I want to create some more requirements out of the standard text, so then I can just select part here and hit this little icon here on top to mark it as a new requirement. You see, working with these documents is quite easy. If I go to another part here, if I, for example, want to extend the normal login requirements here with the second one, I can just go in here like I would do in Word and just continue typing my new requirement, for example, for face recognition. Then I can just save everything here, and the placeholder here, the 2, will be replaced by an actual new ID. Okay, that's it here, how we would work with such a requirements document imported from Word. And the other part, which I mentioned in the slide before, is that we can also import data coming from Excel. So to do that, we can just go into the list of all of our work items in the system, in the current project. So as you see here in the navigation menu, I'm currently in the DOS demo project, which I just created for this webinar. And here we have a little button for an operations menu, and here we can say, okay, we want to import some data. And for this import, we don't import Word, but we import, for example, an Excel workbook. Might be good if you convert all your importing test cases, which might come from Excel, to work items or to a document into Polarion. And for that, I just use also some pre-configuration here. I select my Excel sheet. Now I just have to follow my bear who says, okay, please select the scope of imported data. This was already part of the use pre-configuration, so I already know that I want to import this sheet, that the data starts here, and that I want to import it as a new document, which is called test case back import in my testing space in my project. So now, in the next step, I'm almost done, and then I now just map Excel fields to the Polarion work item fields and hit preview. That means, as you can see here, all the columns coming from my Excel sheet have already been mapped based on the configuration. I just need to confirm that I want to import test steps and just fill here some missing mapping, which is left that system elements from my Excel sheet shall be mapped to a severity of details. So in projects today, team collaboration is very important. So with Polarion, everyone can work on the same content without the need of locking specific parts of a document. If there are questions, like here in a requirement, like if a requirement is not specified as detailed as you would wish to, you can just create a comment directly on the related item. Like here, and the creator of that item will get an email with your question and can directly start answering from that email, which has arrived at a mailbox. And if you like social feeds, you can also have a look at the activity stream, which is showing you the last actions going on in your active project. And you can also use this activity stream to directly answer to commands inside of the stream without even changing to that module or without changing to that document or without changing to that work item to continue your work. Okay, the next part, also an important thing, and all of you know that you need to baseline your document to mark some specific versions of a document, e.g. for a finished release. So Polarion uses Subversion as data storage location. I don't know, some of you of course might have heard about Subversion. The original usage of it is to store development artifacts like your code of any kind and give developers the possibility to track the history of their changes. So with Polarion, every time you hit the save button, you get a new revision in the system. You can also see it here in the history view. So every revision here is just one time hitting save and then can be used as a baseline. But I will show you directly in Polarion how that works. Let's go back to the specification we just imported before. Here our eLibrary 2013 spec. And now we see here, if I make some changes, for example here in my item, just add some text here and save my document. I can go to the history of the document. This is available here via the clock symbol. And now I see all the revisions which have something to do with the document. So what I can do now is I just can compare these two versions, and I can just hit compare, and then I see what has changed in the meantime to my document. So I see now my change which I just did is here marked green, and I could also get a reduced view for that, so that I just see the views and not just the whole document. So then this is just reduced to the single work item which has been changed. But okay, for now, I guess this document view is the best thing we can use here. Another thing before we come to the baselining itself is the history of a single work item. So in comparison to other tools, you are not restricted to just the history of a whole document, but also to one requirement. So if I change something here in my requirement and add some content, or maybe what I also could do is I could just insert some diagram, for example, some use cases which shall be covered by this new requirement here. So I can just say, okay, make a new actor here and connect it to some use cases, hit the insert button to include it into my document, and then I just save everything here. Then there's another thing which is special to Polarion is that I can change every time the view in which I'm working, or the environment in which I'm working. So I can go from my document directly to this single requirement to view the details of that requirement. So if I go, I see all the other fields, all the other metadata I can insert. For example, here I can set myself as an assignee. I can set an initial estimate of 2 days if I like. And for example, this is a functional requirement here at the moment, and save all this information. And now, sometimes there may be an auditor in-house who wants to see the history of exactly this requirement. Then I also have this little clock symbol for the history up here. I can select this one, and I can see the whole history of this requirement. As I said before, every time I hit save, from the initial creation here in revision 5466, 174952 by me, I see every commit. I see every hitting the save button. I see the revision. I see when it was. I see who it does, and I see what I did change. This is also a really cool thing. But okay, let's go back to the document. And what I will do now is I will do a baseline on my document. But I won't do it on the current version, because that would be too easy for us, but we would do it here to the initial revision of my document, to mark this as the initial version which I want to work with. So for example, I can say 5465, I remember that, and now I go to my baselines part, and I select my revision, 5465, here it is, the first version from my document where we imported it. So I can say, okay, this is the baseline where I imported the first document. Could add some description here, but that's not so important for now. And now I have my baseline in here. And if I go back to the original specification and have a look at the history, we see that now this initial revision has been marked with the description or with the title I just entered. So this is a cool feature to just see the old baseline, or to mark the baseline here, or mark a certain version of that document. So I can just directly go into the document, see the old version, and now I have all my information, all my traceability in here, and of course I cannot change anything here. But this is just one part of the usage for baselines in Polarion, because the other thing, maybe the most important part is, if I just click on this baseline here, I go into something what we call time machine. Because now we have the chance to look at the whole project, not just a single work item, not just a single document, but the whole project and how this project looked like at this point of time for this baseline. So I can see, if I go to my documents and wiki, to my specification space, I see my initial e-library 2013 specification, and if I go to here, for example, to the here login part, I see that the requirement for face recognition, which I just entered, is not there. Why is it not there? Because it's an old version which I'm looking at. So here also, what is important, I cannot change anything. I can just view my information. I can view all my documents in the old status. And what is also important, I could also have a look at all the statistics, all the charts of my current project, and I see always the information which I would have gotten if I had a look at this project really a month ago, a year ago, whatever you like, wherever the baseline is for. Okay, so that's it for our baselining for now. So you've heard that, and now that you know how mighty the history features of Polarion are, this concept can be extended to another level. For a topic which is getting more and more important in every industry sector, you can already see it here, it's variant management. And in this slide, I just want to bring you the concept a little bit more, explain the concept a little bit more in detail. So what you see here is the timeline of two modules, or two documents. So module A was the start, and here you can see a circle containing an R, and that means there has been a change. So there someone hits the save button and the new revision has been created. So what you also can see is that document A has been marked as important after a while. So this led to the baseline A1 for some certain revision. And this baseline has been used to create a variant for that document, creating module B. So here the first version of module B is exactly the same as module A in baseline A1. The new document, it may be a specification of some time, now continues and has its own history. And you can do changes independently from the original document, like here, but you also have the possibility to reference specific changes made in the document A to the variant document module or module B. So for example, here some chapter has been added. Maybe there was some bug fix applied to this document here or to a certain chapter. Then you can say, okay, you want to save some effort. You want to do exactly the same in module B. So just merge your changes in module A to module B, and you're fine, and you have the same fix in your variant too. And you can just focus on variant specific development here. Okay, but this is also something I can show you directly in the tool. So let's go back to our specification. I will just get rid of our time machine here by just unselecting this this bubble, and now we see the latest version of the document with all the changes. So here again is our diagram. So what I can use now is I can say I want to do a branch of the document. The branch is how we call the new variant. For example, now I can see here variant B shall be the new version of the document. I can say, okay, I can put it to another project, or I can put it to another space. But for now, I can just leave it here. And here under the revision, I've selected the latest version of the document as base. In comparison to the slide you just see, I don't use a baseline for but the latest version. But you can also use, of course, any baseline or any other revision to branch the document and to create a new variant. Now, if I do that, we go on, or we are in our new variant B specification. And now what you see is that not much has changed actually, because it's the same content as before. But the only thing which has actually changed is that this gray bar here on the left side, this has changed to a dotted line. And that means that these requirements which are included here in the document in this variant are not real own work items, but just references to the original document. What does it mean? At first, the first thing what it means is that I cannot edit anything here by default. But if I go back to the master document here, and if I change something here, for example, add some more content, and if I save this document and just refresh my page here or refresh my document here, then I will just see that, back down, that I see that also here in my variant document I have some more content now, because the change has been propagated automatically from the last version of my original specification. But now I could say that maybe I don't even want this change to be propagated to my document. Maybe I say, okay, I want to use an old version of this requirement, maybe to save money or save some costs or so. And for that reason, I can say, okay, I want to freeze this requirement in an older version. Maybe the one before, maybe just the one before without the more content. And to do that, I just have to select the revision. And now you see this requirement is not longer pointing to the latest version, but to an older version of that requirement. And this is fine now for our use case. And now what is important is that what you normally do within variant is, of course, you have variant-specific changes for a new customer or whatever, or for whatever reason. So you go to this requirement and you can say, okay, now I want this requirement to be changed because my customer ABC wants something else for my use cases. And so I can say, okay, I override my requirement, and now I can see add some content for customer ABC. And now you see this dotted line has been changed to a solid bar. And now you see that I have here my new work item. I get a completely new work item ID. So here's a completely new requirement, just relevant for my variant. This has now nothing to do with the original document, but to be able to follow the whole history of that document, of that requirement, I get a new link here in my menu. So I see that this requirement is originally or has been branched from the requirement DOS 72 in revision 5470. Because this is important. This traceability we get will be the next part of our presentation back in here. So the next part will be linking information. So having mentioned this, all of you will know how to link requirements between modules and DOORS, like in this example here, to link from a system requirement specification to a software design specification to a software test specification. But with Polarion, not only the linking of two elements is possible, but you can also use these links to establish real traceability. That's a really great benefit. And I told you in the beginning that Polarion not only includes another requirements management solution, but it gives users the possibility to work on other domains too. And that makes it possible to see the complete evolution of just an idea or maybe a use case from the first initial system requirements over detailed specifications covering test cases or work packages to the final changed code, including the new feature. That's what you can see here. The first requirement has a test case attached, has a task attached, and in this task you find a commit for source code, which you can directly see here on one look. The initial requirement to the final source code. Using this information, of course, you can also do some documentation on kind of reports, can do some statistics, but I would say let's again move back to the tool, and what we can do now is we can just go back to our initial specification, and here I can say, yeah, we use this one. Yeah, just this WebEx window here is disturbing me, so let's close this one. And now what we can do is we can use our specification here on the left side, and we can link these information, these requirements in the first document from Word to our test cases which we imported before on the right side. So here we have our, let's see where we have it. Need to refresh the page, test case spec import, here it is. So this is a document from Excel which we imported before, and now we say we want to link these requirements to these test cases. And now there's another difference to DOORS, because there's not just one type of link, but we can say, okay, if we start here with the first initial requirement, we can say we want to link this DOORS 71 to a test. And for that reason, we start just linking by using this little icon. Then these two windows are popping up in each window we have open. Then we just have to select the fitting relationship. So there's not just one from one to another, but there's also more logic behind. You can say really what is the relationship between these two items. And in this case, we want a requirement which is verified by a test case, and for that reason we already have this link role here available. So it's verified by would be our choice now. You see there are also different ones, so this can be a nearly infinite list of different relationships if you like, but for now it's verified by shall be enough for us. So we can say this requirement here shall be verified by this test case, and that's it. Already we have our link. We can also say that this requirement here is, for example, or shall be verified by not just one test case or two test cases, but three test cases, for example. So we can just select different ones with hitting the control key or pressing the control key, say, okay, we are ready with our linking, and the only thing left what we need to do is we have to save the original document so that the links are also committed to the Subversion repository in the background. So now the links, after saving the document, the links are really in the document. Another possibility to create links is maybe if you don't have imported a test case, if you don't have an existing test case available, you can also say, okay, for example, for my new requirement which I just created, I go into my requirement, and now I want to create a completely new test case for that. And for that reason, I can just go to the header of my work item, of my requirement, and say here, okay, what I want to create. I can create a child in the document, I can create a task, a defect, another defect which may be related to this requirement. And I can also directly create from the requirement a new verifying test case. And now you see the title is copied. I can enter a little description here, what shall be tested. I can say, okay, who shall be responsible for this test case? Again myself. And then after I create this test case, this is already linked to my initial requirement. So I can just go back here, and I can also go back directly from my requirement back into the initial document. So, and now you may ask, okay, how do I see my relationships which I just created? And there's another way there are different ways of viewing these relationships. I mean, the best way or the quickest way is just directly going from this document-like view to such a tree view here, where we see all the dependencies inside of the document. So here we see now every heading, every requirement which is part of the current document. But in this view, we have the advantage that we can also say, okay, together with that information, please tell me up to 10 different levels what kind of relationships I've got. So for now, one shall be enough for us. So I can say, okay, I update the view, and now I see not just the requirements from the original document, but I can also see the test cases which relate to these requirements. So if I go up here, I see, okay, my first requirement which are linked to the test case DOORS 81. I see my second requirement which are linked to 3 test cases, and I see my test case which I just created for the face recognition. So as I said, this is just one possibility to see the traces. Another one would be, for example, here in the requirements coverage view. So here I see, okay, exactly how many of my requirements in the current project are already covered. At the moment, we are just at 13%, so that's not so good at the moment. So I could just go to my list of requirements without test cases. Can directly just open this list, for example, in a new tab, and then I can say, okay, I want to go through my list and create new test cases for each of my test cases. This would be another possibility. And the third one is a little bit different, would be for perhaps maybe you like it in a table view, so you can say, okay, show me all my requirements in my current project, or maybe just filter to a specific release, to release version 1, and then you get the list of all your requirements for version 1. You can see all the test cases which are related to these requirements, and you can also see what kind of defects are already created for such a test case here. And yes, this all in all is really the thing which is a cool thing about Polarion, the traceability around everything, around every change you do from every domain you want to use with Polarion. Okay, so now we have got the traceability. We can go on with another topic here. During the demo, you already saw that Polarion is able to manage test cases. But of course, not just the management of test cases is important, but also the execution itself. So for this use case, as we see here, you may choose to enter your results directly in Polarion. So every test case has an own section for entering the results. Or you may export your information directly to Excel if you need to test stuff offline. Maybe if you don't have an internet connection available, if you're testing some new prototype cars or trains or whatever, or if you just don't have good internet connection. And at the end, if you are ready with your final testing, you will get also detailed statistics about, of course, what you tested. You will see what are the results, so what test cases are passed, what are failed, and so on. And this is everything about testing, what we can give you. So this is just another possibility for you to say, okay, doors for my requirements is fine, but I just use Polarion, for example, to advance my doors experience with test management, with defect management, whatever you like. And coming from that part or from that topic to the next one is another thing which might be interesting for you, because now you have seen a sample of V-model style of working with Polarion. But there's even more. I mean, the tool is really flexible enough to cover any process or project requirement. So here you see some examples of project templates which are either delivered directly with the Polarion server or which can be downloaded from our Polarion popular extensions page. So the first one you see here is one which we are using on our own. So this is a Scrum-related project template for agile development methods. So you see, just as an example, the sprint board for sprint I153. You see what user stories are planned for the sprint. You see what defects, tasks, and so on are planned for these user stories. What is the current status of these tasks and defects? And you can see here a little trend chart about how is your team doing. So will the sprint be in time? Will everything be done at the end, or probably not? Another example here, which is, I guess, most interesting for the automotive companies which are joining today for the webinar. This is a special template for ISO 26262, Functional Safety Management for Automotive Applications, especially handling with the topic of hazard analysis. Another thing here, maybe we have some participants here coming from a medical sector. So we have also a special template available handling all the requested things coming from the IEC 62304. This is a template which is not free. This is something which our partner Metsoto created, but this is also available from our extensions webpage. Another one here, if you're coming from the aerospace industry, then the DO178C might be interesting for you. So we are also having a template here to just help you implement all the processes you need or all the documents to create which you require to fulfill this norm. At the end, I have a completely different example, but which shall just show you how flexible the solution is. But you can also use it not just for requirements management or test management, but also for some more interesting parts like here vacation administration. So just create new vacation requests here, let your responsible manager confirm your vacation, and then the rest of your days are just calculated automatically, and you always see how much days are left for the current year. So that's it for the main part now. So let me give you a short summary. You've seen in the very beginning that DOORS data can be exchanged easily with Polarion, or that the data can be exchanged with using RegIf, and what the results look like. You see that working in Polarion is quite easy because it's very close to the Microsoft Office world. So also new users will be able to use the tool without much training. And what also is an important part is that with Polarion you can extend your requirements with topics like test case management, change management, defects, or all other kinds of processes. For the end of this presentation, what I also did, I just prepared some customer feedback about Polarion ALM, and I've just picked out 3 customers. I'm not sure if I may mention which these customers are. Maybe we can tell you afterwards if you like, or if you ask us directly who belongs to the statements. What is important right now, a big Asian electronics company wanted to buy Polarion because they needed a SPICE certification and compliance. And they wanted to have a web-based solution. And this was perfect for Polarion, and after rolling out, after implementation, they figured out that it's really easy to customize the Polarion user interface based on permissions, roles, and projects, that the time to achieve SPICE compliance decreased by 44% in comparison to their previous tools, and 80%, there was an 80% improvement in achieving project schedules. I think this is really a really great number. I mean, project schedules are always the part which is somehow critical and not hit very often, but so an 80% improvement is I guess very nice thing. The next thing, German car manufacturer, one of the big ones. The primary motivation for them was also they wanted a web-based solution, and what was also important for them is that they get an API for the extensibility to integrate their own already existing PLM system. So they got that, and after implementation, they figured out that their initial team of 40 users were up and running in 6 days. So this is quite fast for a new tool. They got a 68% time and expense reduction to gather field data, test cases, requirements, and so on. They were really lucky that they can real-time automated status reports and dashboards about their current release status and project status. And they get an 80% reduction in training for new hires or contractors, which of course everything something which saves money and time. And the last one here in the United States, aerospace and automotive OEM, they also bought it because they wanted a web-based solution and they needed FAA compliance and a tool for DoD audits. So their primary benefits after implementation was more than 80% time and cost reduction to prepare their governance reports for audits. There was a 100% reduction in follow-up time and cost due to incomplete or inaccurate data. This is really a key number because this has nothing else than that there's no incomplete or inaccurate data in Polarion. All the statistics you get, they are really based on the work items, on the requirements you have in your system. So no problem about any reports or so. You cannot cheat on these reports. This may be a disadvantage, but at the end it's correct. And other things, it enables the CMMI certification for them easily. And maybe also not so unimportant is that the license cost was the license cost of the original DOORS licenses were 4 times the price of Polarion, which allowed the budget to be used a little bit more effective. So at the end, I'm not sure how the questions look like. Let's have a look at the Q&A panel. Is there any open things? Don't know. Benjamin, Andy, are there any open topics left which came up during the session? There were 2 questions. Oh, okay. There were some questions assigned to me. So the first one. Let me see. Where is it? Okay. So how are requirements recognized? Okay, I think we've seen this in the tool. I mean, the recognizing of requirements is done just with these symbols we got. So if we go back to the tool, you always will see such an icon here, which represents the type of the work item. So requirement in this case will also always have this icon. A test case can be recognized by this icon, and a defect, for example, can be recognized by such an item. Another question here: how much formatting of data is needed to make the transition easy? I guess you mean the transition from DOORS to Polarion. I would say there's not so much pre-formatting required because DOORS gives not so many formatting possibilities which are used in real work, at least as I know from my past. So normally there's as good as nothing for pre-formatting used to make the exchange of data work. So what else do we have here? We have DOORS. The question, DOORS has the advantage of custom attributes. It can be filtered and the power of views. How does Polarion implement that functionality? So what I have to say is that I start with the different views. So basically, every user group, every role can have its own views on the system. So I can say here, view, default, new, advanced, whatever, and I can implement many more, which just tell how this navigation menu, for example, looks like, how these requirements look like. If I go to a sample requirement here in my list, this view will also define what fields will be displayed here and what columns I see in my default view. So this can also be represented by the different views in Polarion, like in DOORS. This advantage of custom attributes is also one thing you have in Polarion. I mean, you see here these fields can be extended by an infinite amount of different or of additional fields. You can also rename existing ones or to just delete them. And then if you want to just query or filter for specific requirements, you can just say, okay, give me everything with type requirement, for example. You can say, okay, give me everything with a specific status requirement. You can say, okay, give me everything with a certain status. For example, everything which is in state draft. You can say, okay, give me everything where assignee is Stefan Schuck admin. And now you have your list of all the requirements which matter for you. So you can really limit the data which is displayed to you very easily. You can even say in a specification that you can apply a filter on such a document. So you can also say here in such a requirements document that you only want to see all the requirements, for example, planned for version 1, or only the requirements which have a severity of must-have. Also, this can be included here. So just give me the example. Let me give you the example here. Just to show me everything with the severity of must-have. Now, after applying the filter, I guess we won't see any should-have requirements in here. Yeah, only the must-have are left. So this is exactly working as in DOORS. So next question here: how are the DOORS modules kept in sync with Polarion updates? So this is the question of the principle you want to use. I mean, you can make regular things, for example, every night if you like, or just choose who's the master for the data. I mean, if you migrate one time to Polarion, you may say, okay, now the data will be just modified in Polarion. Then you just export the regif format back and re-import it to DOORS to make the changes available also from DOORS. But this is of course a question which can be discussed. I mean, there are different possibilities for that. You can just come to us and just explain your use case or how you want to work with it, and then we give you the best solutions for that. So what else do we have? You showed how to import a Word document. Is the process the same for the DOORS regif export? The regif is not exactly the same like this. I mean, basically what you do, I can show you the connector as it looks like at the moment. So what you do is you can go here. You can import your regif document by just selecting the corresponding file. Where is it here? For example, here I have my TC1000 regif file here. Click next, and then I just have to specify, okay, to which document I want to map my information from the regif, and then in the next part I just have to make the mapping. I just have to map the information from the regif file to the first information about which requirement or which work item type shall be used. For example, here requirements shall be created, and then you just have to do the mapping of all the attributes which come from the DOORS module. So you select, okay, the title shall go to that field, the description shall go to that field, the priority shall go to that field, and so on. And if you're done, you can just hit the Start Import button, and the document will look like the one you've seen before. Okay, so what else do we have? We have a question. Okay, if working with both DOORS and Polarion, is it possible to export all work items and links from Polarion to DOORS? I guess the intention is yes, but I'm not sure. I guess yes. I guess I heard Benjamin, who's creating this adapter, actually said that also linking is possible, or the exchange of links is possible in both directions. I think this is all. These are all questions which are open, at least all which I see in my Q&A. How about test runs? Okay, here's another question at the end. How about tests and test runs? Just to give you a quick introduction, or a little bit more detailed introduction about the test management in Polarion. Here we have a separate testing space, and here you can see the concept of your testing on Polarion. So you start with test cases like you have seen before. These test cases might have test steps, and these test cases are normally arranged in test specifications, so that you get a more structure to them. And then, based on these specifications, commonly you create some test run templates, which define a special test scenario, like smoke test or full test or user acceptance test and something like that. On each of these templates, you define what shall be the base data, for example, a query, or for example, you define a document which shall be tested. So a whole test specification, every test case and a test specification. And then you can create different instances in the form of test runs from these templates. And then you just create your results based on these test runs. And this is also used to reuse your test cases. So you don't need to, for every test run, to copy all your test cases, but they're also just referenced, like in the branch document you've seen before. Another question, what we have here, or two other questions, e-signature support for tests and test runs. In general, I have to say we support electronic signatures. This can be applied for any work item. So for every change or for every status transition, or you can add a status transition, for example, a status signet signed or so, from realized to signed or so, and on this status transition you can create your e-signature by just entering your user credentials again. So this is also be possible for Polarion. And I think the last question for today is, what version of Polarion are you demoing today? So this is Polarion version 2013 with service release 1. Okay, so I guess this is now all. At least this is all what I'm seeing at the moment. If you have additional questions, you can also send them to us, of course. And now I would just thank you for the attendance today for the webinar. I hope there was some informative information for you, or some nice information for you, that you get a good impression about what is possible with Polarion and how it can work together with DOS. Now, if you like to test the tool on your own, you could just try it live using our hosted solution from www.polarion.com, or you could just download the server on your own, and then you will get a 30-day free license for evaluation. You can watch other demos or recorded webinars as stated in the beginning. You can have a look at our blog, read our white papers, and just look around on our webpage, and I guess you will find some more interesting information for you. So that's it from my part. Thank you for participating today. The recording of this webinar will be available soon too from the webpage. And that's it. I wish you a nice evening or morning or lunch wherever you are. So goodbye from my side.